Hello, everybody on my YouTube channel and my podcast. Welcome to my channel, Tell It Like It Is radio podcast on YouTube. And on my actual podcast, it is African Melanin Queens. I'm your host. Y'all know who I am by now. I appreciate y'all for joining me for this episode. If you guys like the commentary, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification buttons to receive notifications on my videos. On my podcast, go to Spreaker.com first. Sorry, I'm under the weather. I do apologize. I normally do this well. I just don't feel good still. But if you guys want to hear more of my podcast, go to Spreaker.com/African Melanin Queens. And if you guys want to be members of my podcast, you can also go there as well. I also have my podcast is on Amazon, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, Cashbox, and multiple other streaming companies as well. I am a certified recovery life coach. It's all about helping people on their paths, their journeys, and their purpose to a new and better you through self-discovery. I help people when it comes to recovery, when it comes to your self-esteem, self-worth, and self-values, when it comes to respecting yourself, loving yourself, believing yourself even when no one else does, accepting your flaws and your imperfections, helping people to go back in time and going through all of their past experiences to be able to help them figure out where they went wrong in the situation and taking accountability, and also understanding why they didn't do the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. I also help people when it comes to the addictions of love, like, appreciate, valued, wanted, needed, to be a part of something, to be validated, to be approved of, to be a part of something, to be accepted, for somebody to know your worth and your value, as well as people pleasing, seat fillers, captains, saver holes, and builder bears. Now, this particular topic that we're going to be discussing has everything to do with those things I just said. Single motherhood, and why Black women in particular are single mothers. Well, there's a lot of different reasons as to why. And as we all know, we have a whole lot of panels that have these conversations, but I'm going to do it a little different because I see things very differently. Because single motherhood doesn't start at adulthood, it actually happens while you're a teenager. The majority of Black women that have children have had their first child before the age of 22. Let's start there. Because most young girls are getting pregnant by most young boys, not men, boys. Or if they're being molested by their stepfather or a family member, then it would be adult. Now, young girls are being preyed on not only by young boys, but also grown men. That's the first problem. So if you go back in time, when it comes to Africa, and when it came to before Africa became the name that it is, because Ethiopia is not even the original name of that country. None of the names that are today were the original names in Africa before the Europeans came over there. Now, to get into the thing about single motherhood, as far as Black women, we got to go all the way back to Africa. We have to go all the way back to our culture when it comes down to marrying a family member. Just like in India, Africans have done the same thing when it comes to marrying a family member. We got to start there. So, a lot of young girls under the age of 16 were forced to marry a man twice their age, whether it been a cousin, whether it's an uncle. So, let's start there because we cannot have this conversation if we don't go all the way back. So, our culture before we came over here was us marrying someone that was a family member based upon tribal culture. No differently than in India, they do the same thing. They marry their relatives. That ain't nothing new. So this is not something that a lot of people should be shocked about. So even in a documentary I saw a few years ago, there were girls under the age of 10 that were forced to marry a boy that was 18 years old. So young girls in the Black community never had the right to themselves to be able to choose who they wanted to date. Now, when you had tribes that were going against each other, when it comes down to hello y'all, when it comes down to when all of these different tribes were fighting at the time for lands and taking over each other's lands, because I can show you a documentary now about queens that ran a lot of different colonies and a lot of different tribes that a lot of people don't know about, which I plan to do throughout this podcast. But when it comes down to women, black women only know what black men have told them. But a lot of black women don't even know that we were actually rulers, that there were black women that ruled in nations and with no man, no husband, no nothing. But I don't know why black men don't want black women to know about this, but it's a fact. There were black women that basically ran countries, they ran nations. And there was one in particular. She was married to 1,000 men. And every night she had, so every night she had every man. And this was the first woman that actually did the very first gladiator. She was the first one before the Romans did it, where she had every one of her husbands fighting against each other for one night with her to the death. A lot of people don't know that. And I'm gonna find that because one of these play people who I follow actually talks about these different queens, and there were many of them. So that's the first thing. Second thing was during the time when you had all of these different tribes fighting amongst each other, a lot of women lost their husbands and lost their children. So black women have always, when it came down to being single mothers, that is nothing new, because between their husbands passing away because they were married at young ages, to the fact when there were tribes fighting amongst each other, being a widow, and then not only that, if your tribe was enslaved by another tribe, you had no idea where your children or your husband were. And most of these women were forced to be concubines or prostitutes during that time. Because in war, even in the Bible, that is what happened. Some of the most beautiful women ended up being concubines to these rulers. It was no different than the same thing when it came to Delilah. Delilah was actually a concubine of one of the kings that wanted to destroy Samson because she was enslaved. So a lot of people don't know that a lot of women were concubines, they were wives, or they were mistress, or they were contesses. So Solomon had a number of wives and concubines and mistress and side chicks or mistresses, like as they call it. But anyway, so women have never had the right when it came to their sexuality, especially as black women, because we were married even before the age of 8. So I'm gonna show some documentaries as I go through this particular podcast. I will be letting y'all hear some documentaries of different things. And so when we became slaves, which, okay, let me go back, because we didn't originally become slaves. Let me start there, because we were actually indigenous servants, and it went from indigenous servants to becoming slaves. So I'm gonna explain that. Okay, the first ones to come to Africa were the actual Portuguese. The Portuguese were the first ones to come to Africa. And when they came to Africa, it was not about coming to get slaves. They were coming to get minerals. They ran into that country actually by accident. So when they came, they saw all the minerals and everything that Africans had, and they wanted a part of those minerals. But the Africans were not going to give up those minerals. They were not giving them up for nothing. So when they saw the weapons that these Portuguese had, they was like, well, we'll give you something better. We'll give you these people that we have enslaved. So they gave us up for weapons, and they continued to give them African people. So the first Africans went to the islands. That's the first place they went. Then they went to South America, and then they went to Portugal, Scotland. They went to Spain, but they never went to Russia, and they never went to Germany. Germany and Russia were the two countries that did not have slaves at all. But anyway, when they first got to these countries, they were considered indigenous servants, meaning they were able to buy back their freedom. And a lot of people, once they bought back their freedom, just decided to stay in these countries, and they became what's called the Moors. The Moors were people that bought back their freedom, and they were able to be a part of society no differently than anybody else. Well, that changed when British America came over here and they enslaved the Indians. So, to explain how we ended up over here before 1492 was Florida. Florida is a Spanish state. Vasquez was the first ones to bring Africans to America before 1492. He brought them over because he was the one that actually discovered America before the Christopher Columbus did. So when Vasquez discovered America, they actually built a colony in Florida. Florida was actually the first state that was actually created, but just not by the European, not by Britain, I should say. So when the British came to America, they enslaved the Indians, but the Indians were not able to live to be out there in the sun to the extent of us. So when the British Americans came to America, as they were building their colonies, they ran into the Spanish. They ran into the Spanish. They made a deal to bring indigenous servants to America for them, and they paid for them. And this was before the Civil War came. Okay, so they were under the assumption, the the Spanish were under the assumption that basically the British Americans were going to do the same thing that they've been doing throughout the world, which was letting these people buy back their freedom. Well, they lied to them. They lied to them. So anyway, they were the first ones to bring slaves in 1492 to Virginia. And then the Dutch and the Portuguese also brought slaves over here as well. Didn't find this out till 20 years ago. Anyway, so as you all know, the history of America and what happened with black people and how they ended up becoming slaves. So now you know the history. But that's how that happened. It wasn't, the British never came to Africa. And matter of fact, Britain has never came to Africa. It was actually the French that went to Africa after the Spanish, the Dutch, and the Portuguese. And they're the ones that came over there, and they're the ones that took their actual minerals and everything like that, was the French. And that's why this year, that's when Africa, when they made that deal with Russia, started getting the French out of their countries, as well as in Jamaica and as well as in Haiti. So they are getting them out their country. So that's pretty much what happened. And matter of fact, one of the presidents of one of the countries in Africa was married to a Caucasian woman. Oh, that came out. I didn't even know that. And I forgot it. I can't even pronounce his name, but he basically essentially married a Caucasian woman. And he ended up putting her in jail. That was crazy. I'm gonna find out who he is, and I'll talk about that story. But yeah, his wife is in prison because he married a woman that was French. And even in Congo right now, they have them in these mines all day, every day, getting their stuff. And I don't know if people are going to try to help Congo, because they need to get them people out of Congo. Them people over there are dying. Them people over there being them caves all day, every day for the French. So they're trying to get them out as well. But I know all the other countries, they got them out, the French people out, and boy, they were pissed about that. The French were pissed about the fact they got kicked out of Africa, and the Chinese and the Russians helped them to do so. If it wasn't for the Chinese and the Russians, Africa would have never got their country back. That would have never happened. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing all of this up, because this is where the reason why black women are single mothers. Black women have always been single mothers. That ain't nothing new. We've always been single mothers in one way or another. Either our husband passes away, either our husband abandons us, or either we were sexually assaulted or molested. And there was a woman that did something on a podcast, and she made a very valid point. She said black women have never been able to be feminine. When have black women been able to be feminine when we've always been violated? How in the world can women who've been violated through generations be able to be feminine when we've always been abandoned? So when it came down to whether it be wars, whether it be a situation where a man just decides to up and leave, black women can never feel secure. We can't. The roof has always been pulled from up under us through our history. Black women have never been able to just feel comfortable or feel safe. And now it's to a point now that it went from other races basically taking advantage of us to now black men are now doing the same thing. So we have to start there. And so a lot of people don't really go back that far to really talk about that from that perspective of black women and the fact that black women as young girls are forced to be married to someone twice their age. There was same documentary I saw, there were girls in there pregnant at the age of 9 years old. There were girls in there that were pregnant even before 13, having babies by a man twice their age. So you have to start there. So when we get over here, and even in other countries in the United States, well, countries across the world, where African descent people were in other countries, we were sexually assaulted multiple times by multiple different race of people. It's just in the United States, it's a little bit different. It was more violent. So you had women that were forced to, no matter what, have sex with multiple men. They were forced to basically have a bunch of babies to produce slaves for the Caucasian people in America. Now, why is this important? Because black women have never been able to heal from this. If you ever seen 12 years of slavery, and you remember the part where the white man came in there and he sexually assaulted her in front of all of them black men, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. But see, black women don't want to basically go there with black men about that, which I think you should, because this should be something that should be said, because the way black men are coming at black women, that's a question I got for black men. During slavery, why did y'all just sit there and watch women be sexually assaulted over and over and over again? Let's not even talk about the fact that light-skinned women were sold as prostitutes during slavery. But see, if y'all knew all of this, then you will understand why there's a light-skin privilege. I'm going to break down light-skin privilege, and a lot of y'all ain't going to like it. Light-skin privilege, the reason that it was, is because you're mixed with something that is Caucasian. That is why. It ain't got nothing to do with anything else. You're mixed with Caucasian, so you're basically half and half. The first prostitutes in this country were light-skinned women, biracial women. There was a biracial woman that actually owned one of them prostitutes, them whorehouses that they called it. Whorehouses. I'm gonna find the information and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna find it and show it to you. But you got to start there. So the fact that I see black women showing off their bodies, I see black women just having random sex and fornicating. This comes from that pain, the suffering that black women have suffered. And so black women are now empowering themselves, at least they what they think. They're empowering themselves by thinking, I can go out here and sleep with whoever I want to. I can be with as many men as I want to. Not understanding that's not the answer. Because why are you out here having sex with random men after everything that black women have went through? And like I said, the reason I wanted to have this conversation because I want black women to rethink you out here having sex. You're benefiting men. You're benefiting men. Because even if you are having sex with multiple men, they still reap the benefits of it more so than you do. Black women don't even know really what sex is and what sex consists of. You have no idea how you're supposed to feel as a woman because the only thing we know is violent sex. All we know is being sexually assaulted. We don't know how what it's like to be made love to. We don't know what it's like to have a man make us feel something. We have to deal with basically being disrespected. We have to deal with being laced in our drinks. A woman can't even tell a man no without him sexually assaulting you if you tell him no. So, are you really being made love to? Or are you just being the F word? Are you just another conquest on this man's belt? Are you just another girl that he's sleeping with? As I'm going to give you a good example. Christopher Maurice Brown. Mind you, I love Christopher Maurice Brown. But can this man really be faithful considering he's got all these females in his face every single day? No. No. If a man got money, he has access to so many different women. It ain't even funny how many women he's got access to. And I'm not just talking about black women. Just yesterday, I saw Bronny James and his brother with their girlfriends. And no, I think they're with I forgot their name. They're a famous couple though. And I think Bronny is dating their daughter. Um I cannot think of their names right now off the top of my head because I don't feel good. But I saw their daughter. But they're dating one of their daughters, and she actually is black. She just doesn't look black because her mother is mixed, but she is black because her mother is black and something else, and then her dad is actually black. Oh Jesus, I know the last name is Richardson. I just can't think of her name right now. She's been in a lot of movies though. She's an actress. Her husband are both actors. They've been together a long time, but long story short, they were with them and everything. And I saw Savannah and her daughter, and then I saw LeBron. But at the end of the day, like I said, black women, I need y'all to throw in a towel. Just throw in a towel. Y'all have heard what these men have said. You've heard what they said. You've heard the downright disrespect on all these panels. Throw in the towel. Let me explain why you should throw in the towel. Y'all are fighting for men that apparently don't want you at all. Why are you fighting for men that don't want you? Why are you fighting for men that still don't protect you even to this day? They didn't protect us during slavery. They couldn't protect us when our lands were being taken over by other Africans. So what makes you think they can protect you now? You are just going to be another notch on a man's belt. See, as of right now, men are starting to realize they don't need women anymore. because women are no longer valued. Because why? Somebody brought up something very important. They said the value of black wealth is zero. Zero. Black wealth is zero because black people are not wealthy. Okay? So let me start there. Black men right now will never be multi-billionaires while you're in this country. It's just not going to happen. Black men can't get nowhere without a Caucasian person to help them. Now, mind you, this is not about Caucasian people, but it is a fact. See, what black people don't understand is if you don't own a country, you have no power. Okay? So I'm going to go 48 laws of power on you. If you don't own a country, you have no power. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you don't own your country, meaning you got a whole Spanish country, you got Turkey, you got all these different countries. Now, don't get me wrong, you can go in another country and you can go somewhere and live somewhere else, and that's cool, but you don't own it. You under somebody else's rules, somebody's regulations is the point that I'm trying to make. And I've been saying this for about 20 years. Black people, you cannot make a nation within a nation. You just can't do it. So the fact that you got black men that are sitting up here saying what a black woman's supposed to do, but yet you don't even own a country to even tell me what to do. No, because you don't own this country to even open your mouth to even say, as a woman, what I'm supposed to do. Considering you are basically being ran over by a bunch of Caucasian people. That's why I shake my head every time black men get on these panels. You don't own nothing. And the one time you did, they stripped everything from you when it came to the Harlem Renaissance and Black Wall Streets. So if Caucasian people can strip black men of their lands, which they did, they stripped you from Harlem and put you in the ghetto, then what makes you think you got the right to tell me as a black woman what I'm supposed to do? Why? Because the Caucasian people are just as much your daddy as they are ours. It's funny when I hear black men say, well, the white man is your daddy because they giving you Medicaid and food stamps and child support. Well, guess what? They're your daddy too because they pay your bills. Okay. They pay your bills. They're the ones that give you a paycheck. You can't even get on the level of Jay-Z without a Caucasian person. You can't even get nowhere without a Caucasian person. So let me use hip hop for example. Russell Simmons had tried his best to get Def Jam off the ground. If you ain't never seen Crush Groove, please go watch it. Because if you've seen it, then you know where I'm going with this. If it wasn't for Rick Rubin, there would not be no Def Jam. There would not be no hip hop if it wasn't for Rick Rubin. Russell Simmons had to get with a Jewish young man who believed in rap to get him in the front door. They didn't care about, and then when Russell decided to do it on his own, I think Rick Rubin left or something happened. Something happened where they ended up, leaving. When Rick Rubin left, Russell couldn't run that by himself. And what happened? It got bought. He had to sell it because he couldn't maintain it. Even though Def Jam was doing absolutely fabulous, he ended up bringing in a bunch of Jewish people to run Def Jam. Am I not wrong? Jay-Z and them had Rockaware. Sean Diddy Combs had Sean John. We had Carl Kanai. We had Fubu. I forgot the other one with the all the colors. I can't think of it off the top of my head. We had all these fashion designers, all these fashion houses of our own. And what happened? They got bought. What did these black people did? They sold it. They sold their companies. So if you want to know the real reason why, when that girl said that the wealth of black people is zero, that is why. Because you have nothing as far as any type of business. All y'all care about is money. So it's not about having a legacy and having an actual product or an actual company. It's about the money. Every time I turn around, I see a black person selling their company. Why are you selling your company for? And then you think you can turn around and do that success all over again, which is something that Diddy and Jay-Z and all of them are starting to realize. Jay-Z ain't been the same since Rockaware and Rockefeller and all of that. He tried Tidal and ended up selling that. And had a whole bunch of Caucasian people working for him. Not black people, Caucasian people. Diddy ain't been able to come back since Bad Boy was sold. The only person that kept that label was Jermaine Dupri. He was the only one that kept it. Even LaFace Records was sold. Motown was sold. Every single rap label from back in the day has been sold to the highest bidder. Everybody thought that Diddy owned Ciroc. Come to find out, he was just the face of Ciroc. Just like Jay-Z was the face of Cristal. Just like Rihanna does not own her company. She doesn't. Her company is incorporated through Fenty. Fendi. I'm getting them mixed up. Fendi. Fendi owns 50% of her company. And Rihanna just got 50% of her company. So do you think Rihanna owns her company? No, she don't own her company. She does not own it. And she just stepped down. So at the end of the day, what are y'all talking about? Y'all keep thinking, well, Rihanna owns Fendi. Fenty. No, she doesn't. Fendi does. Fendi does. She had to go to Fendi to get a deal to get her own line, whereas Kylie Jenner owns her own makeup line. She owns her own. Selena Gomez owns her own skincare line. But Rihanna does not own Fenty. She owns 50% of it. Ariana Grande owns hers. So how is it that Caucasian women can own their own makeup line, but yet black women can't? That's why I ain't mad at Beyonce when it came to Sacred. I'm not mad at Beyonce. Beyonce created Sacred on her own. Now, she might have had some backing, but Beyonce has enough money to basically put into her own product. But Rihanna does not own Fenty. She only owns 50% of it. The only time you own your company is if you own 100% of it, or you're the majority stakeholder, the majority stockholder. Meaning, you might have somebody that might invest, and they might get 10%. But I've watched Shark Tank, so I pretty much see how that works. So at the end of the day, if you don't own the vast majority of your company, that means you don't own it. You only own a portion of it. So let's start there. So if you got black people that are constantly selling their companies and they're constantly not trying to get it on their own without a Gucci or Louis Vuitton backing you. So yeah, that's why when Koch came out, and that was a label where people paid $10,000, you were able to own your own label, and they would just do the distribution for it. But you had to do the promoting and all the other stuff. But they would push out your albums. That was the best thing for black people, and that's how most black people got their labels based upon that. Now Koch is gone, ironically. So now black people just can't go and get their own label. Now you have Sierra, who's independent, and you have Monica, that's independent, but it takes a lot of work to be independent. A lot of you don't want to do the whole entire work that it's going to take to be independent, because you have to pretty much promote your album. You pretty much got to do everything yourself, and tours, you're paying for that yourself, unless you get on somebody else's tour. But you still got to pay for your sets and all this other stuff. It's just like with Chloe Bailey. Everybody said, well, why is it that when Chloe Bailey came out, that Chloe Bailey, nobody promoted her album? Her album is actually pretty good from what I've heard, some of the snippets of it. But Beyonce didn't promote it, and she's on Beyonce's level, but yet Beyonce has not promoted it, which I think is kind of weird. So this girl is pretty much promoting herself. I think the album's gonna do well over time once she goes on tour and starts, performing some of the songs, or doing like I wish she would have did a listening party. That's what I wish she would have did. But she'll be fine. But like I said, it's no different than the industry right now. So you have to understand that if you don't have a label, meaning if you don't own something that's 100% yours, then you don't own it. You don't own it. And so that's part of the problem right there. Black people gonna leave this earth with nothing. So let me explain something else that a lot of y'all don't know. Kanye West, they're saying that apparently he's addicted to laughing gas. And being that he's addicted to laughing gas, they think that's going to end up unaliving him, or he going to end up being a vegetable. He going to be like Michael Jackson, apparently. And he's paying these doctors $100,000 for this laughing gas. And one of his friends basically went to the dental board to basically tell on this particular doctor that's doing this to Kanye. Kanye ain't been the same since his mama died. I really believe Kanye is either borderline bipolar, or he does have autism, one of the two, if not both. But Kanye has always been a little weird to me. I thought that when he got in an accident, that I think that's what changed him to that accident. The accident is what did it. Because Kanye had sense before he had that accident. He ain't been the same since that accident. But it's like Kanye. Kanye is going to leave this earth broke. They did Michael Jackson. They did Prince the same way. So at the end of the day, every black artist now they make more money off them being unalived than alive. It's just like back in the day when I was a kid, when somebody passed away, they always released new music from them, even though they were no longer, here. So I remember, who was that? I can't remember who it was, but they had an arsenal of music. So they always would put out their unreleased music. It took 20 years to get Aaliyah's music finally on Apple Music. 20 years. 20 years. Her mom and them been trying to get her music on there for 20 years. And her uncle just released her music. Michael Jackson has a whole arsenal of music that we ain't never heard. We're never going to get to hear because they won't put it out. It's no different than Prince. Prince has when I tell you Prince got a whole lot of music, Prince got a whole lot of unreleased music. We ain't never gonna hear it. So it's like when our people die, artist wise, you don't hear nothing else from them. I'm sure Whitney Houston got a whole bunch of songs, but I bet you they ain't gonna be released. But yet, if Madonna was to pass away, you're going to hear a whole bunch of unreleased music, because they're going to keep on putting her music out, because her kids going to continue to let her legacy live on. But I don't know what it is about black people when it comes to this. I've noticed this. Marvin Gaye. Anybody that use Marvin Gaye music is going to get sued. They tried to sue, who is that? They tried to sue Robin Thicke, Ed Sheeran. They tried to sue him and lost, because they couldn't prove that the music that they were using his music, or something happened. But there was a way around it. So I don't recommend nobody using Marvin Gaye music because you're gonna get sued. But yet and still you won't put any of their music out. It's like I don't know what it is about black people when it comes to your family members dying. Y'all don't want to continue their legacy by continue putting out their music. But yeah, Caucasian people are quick to do it. They're quick to put out unreleased music from their art from their family members. They will keep them alive. You still gonna hear you still gonna hear Elvis even to this day. They even did a movie about Elvis. So Elvis is still gonna be here. You still gonna hear about a lot of, even with Robert Williams, you still gonna hear about Robert Williams no matter what. And you're probably wondering where I'm going with this. This all applies because if the black community does not understand that we have zero wealth, and what that means is we don't own a football team, we don't own a basketball team, we don't own a conglomerate, we don't own where we're making international money, we don't own a fashion house, we don't own a franchise that is of our own, we don't have schools. We got daycares, plenty of those, but not schools. We don't own a major department store. We don't own movie theaters. No, we don't own none of that. So if the black community has no wealth, then don't you think we should be trying to figure that out first? How is it that we don't have any wealth? Because I think that would be the first thing we should figure out. Why is it that we don't have wealth? So I'm trying to, oops. Hold on. Trying to say something. Black community wealth. Okay. So I'm gonna show y'all something right quick, just to show you what I'm talking about. And I need to find out what she had the article, but I'm gonna show y'all what I mean by what I'm saying. Now this is about building wealth. It says in 2022, for every $100 of wealth held by white households, black households only hold $15. $15. $15. So for every $100 in wealth held by white households, black households only hold $15. Wealth measures the total value of assets a family owns, such as houses, buildings, and equity, minus their debt, such as student loans, credit card bills, and during COVID, the pandemic increased unevenly. So you mean to tell me, you mean to tell me that all these people, that black people been telling y'all that we're accumulating wealth? Where we're more in debt than we are accumulating wealth. And then everybody looks at Jay-Z talking about, well, Jay-Z is worth 1.5 billion. Okay, and Bill Gates is worth 156 billion dollars. I just seen in India a couple have a multi-billion-dollar wedding. I just seen a couple have not only one, not only two, not only three, they had 4 weddings. And it had to be like $1.5 billion. No. And they say black people's biggest source of money is black markets or underground economy. Oh, now this is even more. Now this is even more interesting. So you mean to tell me that black people's common source of money is selling prohibited drugs, gun running, terrorism, and human trafficking? Oh, yeah. I mean, some of y'all see this. Is what I'm saying, these panels need to see all of this because maybe, just maybe, they'll get a different philosophy. So you mean to tell me our source of income, our source of income is, please make it make sense, is drugs, alcohol, guns, gangs, and human trafficking? Hmm. And y'all gonna sit up here and tell me y'all listening to these black men? Okay. So if you wonder why black women made the choices they make, here you go. There's your answer right there. There's your answer right there. Because drug dealers, gangsters, and thugs represent high valued men, fast money. There you go. So our wealth comes from illegal. Okay, good to know. So that's why I said, you know, we can't do that if we own, if the average black man, matter of fact, let me go there for a second. So, like I said, which group holds the most wealth? Of course, white people, 65.3%. And 80% of all wealth. So, yeah. Mhm. Okay. So I'm a little lost on this. So, can black people accumulate wealth? Nope. No. No. And the reason why, because this is not our country. No. Okay, let's get into it. As of 2024, the average monthly salary for African American men is $6,585 or $79,025 annually. However, the salary range of African Americans can widen from 20,000 to 196,000. But look here. But let's go even further. Now, this breaks down it per percentage. So if 25% make 48,500, if 75% make 95,000, which is mainly celebrities, and if 90% makes $100,000, $130,000, that would also go with basically essentially celebrities. So the 75% would be mainly, for the most part, celebrities. But it also goes here, if you go down even further. Now, they're saying that you make $15,019 or $6,885. Now, most men will say, well, that's still good to make 79,000. They're saying as a whole. That's not per person, that's as a whole. As a whole, as far as black people, we make 79,025 on average. And that's everybody. That's in the lower and middle class. Let's start there. But the average, if they made it, is 37.99 an hour. It ain't too many of us that made 37.99 an hour, which we don't. So that would be enough. That's not realistic. But if you go here, This gonna break it down for you even further. Now these are the real numbers right here. Now these are the actual average numbers. From 20 to 29, white people make $33,600, and non-Hispanics or anybody that's non-black. Black people make 25,000 a year. From 20 to 29, 30 to 39 is $60,300 for Caucasian and non-blacks. $41,600, and this is men between 30 and 39. Between 40 to 49 is 71,000, and for black men it's 51,000. For 60 to 69 is $70,300, and for black men it's $47,100. So, please explain to me based upon these numbers here, and this was between 20 and 2021. So please explain to me how comparing the two here. Why is this happening? Because again, this is not our country. We don't own this country. And I need black people to get that through your head. So if you don't run this country, they can pay you whatever it is they choose to pay you. And that's what y'all need to understand. So when I hear black men talking about some, well, women should just stay home. Dude, based upon these numbers, you can't even afford for us to stay home. Based upon these numbers. Because I don't see none of these numbers going under over $75,000. And this 51,000 is very rare. So I'm a little lost here. How you gonna sit up here and say that y'all as black men can be able to provide for a household with these numbers? You can't. And then it says the average for a black man is 95,000, but the net worth is just $11,030. So yeah, seriously. And this is why I say, for me, I bring these receipts up because this stuff is important. So like I said, it shows you here what the percentage is as far as black people in general, as far as making these incomes. So you only have 11%. That's not a high number. And you only got 6% that makes over 150 to 199,000. And then you only got 6% that only make 200,000 and over. Okay, good to know. So those are the percentages. And you can't lie about percentages. And then they're saying our average salary is $769. And then in the UK it's $7,900. And then it's got $7,795. So I'm really trying to understand here, why in the world is it that you think that y'all are making all this money? It's only 17%. 17% of men and 8.4% of women as of 2022. So women are catching up to men and this was 2022. So like I said, I'm really trying to understand how in the world this is possible. We already know who got the highest salary. We already know that. So like I said, if you want to talk about salaries, The average black person makes $828 a week, which is 43,000 annually. So I'm really trying to understand this. And that was in 2020. So again, when have things changed? How in the world do you think you gonna be a billionaire when you don't run a country? Ice Cube and them have been trying to do a basketball league for the longest. And y'all already know the situation with that. So at the end of the day, you can't have nothing in this country unless you are Caucasian. So if you think that you're going to be able to just get married and think you're going to have the same life as somebody Caucasian, them numbers going to prove you wrong. And we're dealing with racism. And we're dealing with police brutality. This is the thing I'm trying to get black men to understand. You ain't never going to be on the same level as them people. They own this country. And when you own a country, your people have the upper advantage. They just do. They have the upper advantage. They have the upper hand. So if Caucasian people basically have the opportunities, then that right there to tell you, you get whatever it is that's left over. And this is why I don't argue with black men at this point, because black men don't seem to understand this. There are black men right now, I know right now, that are trying to get on the next level in the industry and have the hardest time trying to do so. There are black men in the industry that ain't getting paid the money that who is that? Let me think of some names. Robbie Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, um, Brad Pitt, George Clooney. They get paid $20 million. Leonardo DiCaprio. They get paid almost $40 million a picture. But yet and still, look how long it took Denzel Washington just to get $20 million a year. Per film. Same thing with Will Smith. Look how long it took. Look how long it took for Halle Berry to get an Emmy for Monsters Ball. Not for Dorothy Dandridge. Not for what she did in Belle. No. It took her having sex with a white man to get an Emmy. To get an Oscar. Then Denzel Washington got a Golden Globe and an Oscar for Training Day. Not for what he did in Malcolm X. Not what he did in all the movies he's done that were positive, but for Training Day. So I need y'all to understand something here. I'm not a racist. I'm not against white people. I'm not mad at it. I gotta respect it though. A white woman can go out here and be with as many men as she wants to and still get married and still marry a prominent person. Black women, it's never going to happen. Why? Because of what I said of the history of black women and what we've had to deal with. We've been wearing a scarlet letter for God knows how long. And we're still wearing that scarlet letter. And that's why when I listen to these black men talking about, well, I'm going to go out there and date another woman outside my race, you go right ahead. You go right ahead because y'all ain't been there for black women no way. Go ahead. Take your behind on and go ahead and date white girls. You want to know why? You want to know why they want white girls? I'm going to tell you why they want white girls. Because, I can show you, but I can tell you, but I can't. Number one, and like I said, I lived in Germany. Let me first say that. I lived in Germany. Them girls are taught how to be wives. Them girls are taught that whatever it takes to be with that man, you're going to be with that man. Not only that, their sexuality is wild and free. I remember when we went to a nude beach. No. Before the United States started doing water parks, Germany was the first one to do water parks. Let's start there. We went to a water park, mind you. I had to been about 6 years old. I ain't never gonna forget this. My sister was first born. She was born over there. So we going in there with my mother's German friend and her husband and her kids. And it just so happens that her husband was black. So for all of y'all who think dating outside your race happened in this generation, no, it happened long before. But anyway, so her husband was black and she was German. So we went and we got in the car. We go inside. We walk around. My mom and them ain't paying attention. My mom and daddy just walking through, not paying attention. And I happen to notice as we going through, I'm seeing people naked. I'm seeing kids naked, adults naked, everybody naked. I said, Mama, why is everybody naked? She said, what are you talking about? I said, Mommy, look, everybody naked. Boy, she looked around. She like, what is going on here? And then my mama's friend said, well, in Germany, you're allowed to be naked in front of your kids. My mama put her, she picked me up and she covered my face so I couldn't see nothing. I ain't never gonna forget it. And so, you know what I'm saying? My sister don't remember Germany because she was a baby, but I do. I remember distinctly. But it was funny because my mother's expression just set it all for me because she could not believe that women and men and children can be naked. They don't believe in, they believe in being nude. They be outside being nude in their front yard. Man, Europeans are absolutely amazing to me. Cause they can have sex in the office in front of everybody, and everybody just keeps on walking. Nobody cares. When I used to watch Cinemax back in the day, around 12 o'clock, around 11 o'clock on the dot, I remember when I first saw it was by accident. I was like just scrolling. My son had to been about two. No, yeah, it was like two because me and my son's father separated before he turned two. But around two, and I was on my own, and I'm up here strolling, and just not minding my business, just strolling. Next thing I know, I said, let me see what's going on Cinemax around 11 o'clock. I don't know what made me do this, but I clicked on it. All I know is I see this Texas thing where this guy runs a Texas, I forgot what they call it. Bunny Ranch. That's what he called it. Bunny Ranch. Man, that was the first reality TV show I ever seen. Before there was a Real World and Road. No, it was after that. But when I saw the Texas Bunny Ranch, I'm sitting there like, what the world is this? And I got into it because it was good. I mean, the girls was in there with the men and they were having these conversations. And I'm just sitting like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I'm just getting pointers because I'm just sitting like, oh, this is interesting. And they showed how the girls got paid. And what it was the girls would be out there in their nice little outfits. And they would be standing out there. And it would be maybe two black girls and a bunch of Caucasian girls and maybe one Asian girl. But they'd be standing out there. The guys will walk past them. They'll pick one. They have a conversation. They'll go in the room. You don't get to literally see them have sex, but you get to see what these guys want or whatever the case may be. But anyway, after that went off, that's when everything's really started getting good. Because then next thing I know, I'm seeing this show about porn stars. And I'm like, what the world is this? Man, I stayed up about 4 o'clock in the morning watching a whole bunch of sex stuff at 4 o'clock. Every weekend. I was hooked. I'm just sitting there like, what is Cinemax? I mean, I saw everything from soft porn to hardcore porn to reality TV shows about porn. I'm like, what is this? And then about 2 in the morning, that's when everything about one after I saw that, about 1 in the morning, I would see overseas the way they have sex overseas. So they had these things where you got to see everything from people having sex with animals to people overseas and how they have sex. And I mean, I was just tuned in every single solitary Saturday night. Then Zane also came on as well. So Zane had these different. She had this show on Cinemax late at night where she did her book and she made them into these little series. It was good. I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't think Cinemax does it anymore. But that right there during that time, I learned a lot because I'm sitting there like mind blown. I'm just sitting there like, wow. So yeah, I used to stay up every night 3 or 4 till 6 in the morning watching that, and then I would be sleep all day. I sleep all day on Sunday. Yep, I used to. Yeah, but like I said, and they also have this article. Let me find it. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Hold on. The top country when it comes to sex. Okay. I'm gonna let y'all. I'm about to show y'all this article, and I'm going. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna show y'all the top 10 countries that have the most sex, and I'm about to shock the daylights out of y'all. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna share my screen. Here it is. Is it okay? Here it is. This is ranked 10 countries that have the most sex. Y'all about to be shocked. All right, let's get into it. Okay, while it's safe to assume that sex is being had all over the world, just which countries are getting it on the most? Here, the top 10 list going by the greatest number of adults having sex at least once a week. Now, this is at least once a week, mind you. Let's get started. The first country, number 10, Mexico. Mexico. They have sex at least once a week, 71%. 71%. That's high. Our Pan American sunny neighbors to the south edge is way to the top 10 list, which is a close 3/4 of the population making whoopee. And we're curious to hear what other 29% are doing. So, in other words, 71% of Mexicans have sex at least once a week. Let's continue. Number nine, Spain. 72%. 72%. The second Spanish speaking country in just many sides make it on the list. Spain is a country full of culture and romance, and it is not uncommon to see people socializing, meeting up, and tapping and engaging in displays of affection, which is no surprise, and it ain't. Number eight, Switzerland, 72%. Neutral Switzerland is definitely not on the fence with this one. Close to 3/4 of the population has clearly performed healthy sex. Okay. So Switzerland is number 8. Number 7, Malaysia. I ain't shocked by this one either. 74%. Venturing to the further east, multicultural Malaysia is also one of the best countries to live or work abroad. In the rankings, it scores 6 in making friends. And so it's not surprising that some of these friends become more than friends. I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. That's what they say about Malaysia. Number 5, Portland. No, I mean Poland. I'm thinking about Portland. Poland has 76%. That's shocking. 76%. Hold steady at the halfway up the list. Poland is one of the most affordable destinations in Europe. Fascinating mix of tradition and modern. We're willing to bet that sexy time is just one away. Like a favorite way to keep you warm in the cold months. Yes. We're winking your way. Yeah. If you cold in the wintertime, yeah, people have sex more in the wintertime than they do in the summertime. Yep, because you're more snuggled in. Number 5, Italy, 76%. I'm not surprised. Not the last Latin language country on the list. Italy slides into the top half with its being one of the best food and wine destinations of the world. True. We think that there must be a link, as they say, the quickest way to someone's heart is through their stomach. Hold on. It's through their stomach. Hold on a minute. Let me. Yep, it's through their stomach. All right, next. Number 4, China. 78%. Not surprising. Yeah, they trying to make babies. Such a vast diversity landscape, thrilling metropolis centers. There is something for everyone in China. Fun fact, the country is also boasts one of the biggest concentrated of billionaires. And if the freedoms from financial stress isn't a possible, we don't know what is. 78%. Number 3, Russia. 80%. Good God Almighty. So 80% of people in this country having sex once a week. So you mean tell me 80%? It says while Russia's harsh winters can be off-putting for those unaccustomed to the bite, the world's largest nation amongst the top 3 most sexual active countries. We did mention that one of its famed residents, I cannot pronounce that name and I ain't gonna try, also happens to be one of the most top world billionaires who is single and ready to mingle. I'm not surprised by that. Next, number 2, Brazil. I'm not even surprised. 82%. The land of the Sambo, and can't pronounce that, I ain't gonna try. Brazil is one of the best places to attend Carnival, which is beautiful beaches and one of the destinations for sun worship. At night, though, it becomes a party paradise. We see we saw this coming a kilometer away. Number one, 87% of adults having sex at least once a week would be Greece. A relatively small, picturesque island nation takes the top spot for the greatest number of adults having sex at least once a week. One of the most beautiful sunsets in all of Europe. Yes, it is. This country is known to set the mood, the right mood for bumping urges. Okay. Now, my question is, where is America in that one? Hmm? Where's America in that? I'm gonna need y'all to go ahead on because y'all be killing me when y'all be talking to me, talking about some. No, no, no. America is dead. Is it's the second to the last country in all 50 states when it comes to sex. Y'all know nothing about sex. You really, really don't. And I keep telling y'all that you really don't. You don't know what sex is. So yeah, I find y'all funny. So like I said, it's just funny to me when I sit here and I think about it, and I'm just like, okay. Hold on a minute. Why is this thing not doing what I want to do? So anyway, my computer is acting funny today when I'm trying to do something. Why is this thing giving me a hard time today? Oh my god. It's like really giving me a hard time. Anyway. But anyway, like I said, I find it funny. I really do. I just find it funny when you think about it though, when you got people that are, you know, you tell people. For some reason my thing is not working. Hold on a second. So anyway, like I said, I'm really trying to understand that why this conversation needs to be had, because if you don't know these statistics, how are y'all having these conversations? Because a lot of y'all are having these conversations, and you know absolutely nothing about the conversations that you're talking about. So if you're having these conversations about sex, and you're trying to figure out why women are single mothers, that's because in this country we don't learn nothing. That's why. In this country, we're pretty much on our own because our parents had children under the age of 22. So if the average woman has a child before 22 years old, that would mean she was a teenager when she had her firstborn child. So that would mean that she's growing up with her child, because let me break this down in a way that this makes sense. If you have a woman, a young girl that got pregnant between the ages of 8 to the age of 22, that means she still has a mind frame of a child, which means she has not experienced anything yet, right? So if you got social media and all you see is over sexualization, don't you think your daughter is gonna be out here trying to be like Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B and Lotto and all these other females? I would think so. So if you don't have a contradiction of that, where you have women that are actually modest, that's not showing off everything, you even got R&B artists trying to be like these girls in the rap game, like Chloe Bailey. You got Normani. You got Seven Streeter. You got her. You got even Ari Lennox. You got artists like Jill Scott who are now getting into sexuality. But okay. So if you don't have women that's like, I'm not having sex till marriage. If you don't have females, hello. If you don't have females that are contradicting this and making young girls understand abstinence, then what exactly are you talking about? So you can't sit up here and have these debates on these channels as far as these panels if we're not getting to the root cause of the problem. Black women have always been single mothers, even before we got here. Our kids have been stripped of us since day one. We've been forced to get married at a young age. So please explain to me what you're talking about here. So we've always been abandoned. Black women have never been able to deal with their trauma. Black women have had to be strong 24/8. We're never able to just be able to just feel safe. We've never felt safe, because every time we feel safe, a man decides to cheat on with a whole nother female. Every time we feel safe, here comes domestic violence. Here comes some type of sexual assault. Here comes you walk away from a man and say, I'm not interested. He ends up unaliving you like one of them twins. When are black women ever gonna feel safe? When you have black men that have just as much trauma as black women and won't go to therapy. Won't even go to therapy to find out what's wrong with you. So at the end of the day, I get it. I really do. I get it. I get it. I even understand it. And I'm even looking at now that the top 20. I'm going into the top 20 now. Give me a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna go down the list in the top 20, and I'm gonna go down this kind of quickly. Now, this is the top 20 far as having sex. The top 20. Let's get into this conversation. They have the most sex, mind you. This is the most sex. It's a whole different poll. The top 20 countries having the most sex. Number 20, India. Now, they have 1.43 billion people by December of 2023. Now, they said 1.7 an average, with an average of 1.5 partners. So they're number 20 when it comes to sex. But let's continue. I'm just going to skim through this. Number 19 is Norway. So 91% point from this story, which is second country on the list over Portugal, and 83%. Number 18, Sweden. When it comes to the attitudes of sex, Swedes tend to be quite open minded. They promote an enjoyable pleasure yet safe experience for all involved. They embrace the idea of using toys can enhance fun and pleasure, which may be considered revolutionary concept by some. Number 17, Finland. Sexuality is regarded in a positive light with a strong emphasis on the value and respect of each other as an integral part. Studies concluded that by the World Portugal Review reveals Finns boast about the highest number of sex partners among any nation of the world. So Finland, in other words, got the most sex partners. That's interesting. So you mean tell me they got more partners than these men in the United States? Oh, interesting. Next, Belgium. Now they say research company Status conducts a survey in 2018 about the frequency of having two or more sex partners of the people in Belgium. Studies state that approximately 10% of Belgians report to having multiple sexual partners. Now, see, it's amazing how in all these other countries, sex is so wild and free. And yet in the United States, it is so taboo. Interesting. So next would be number 15 would be Malaysia. We already know about a study about that. 2/3 of Malaysians reported to being sexually active. Interesting. Significant majority, 88%, do not use condoms or any form of birth control. Additionally, 11% acknowledge having multiple sex partners. So let's get this straight. So in Malaysia, they don't believe in using condoms. So 88% of men in that country don't use condoms. So that means only 12% use condoms and 11% acknowledge having multiple partners. Jesus. All right, let's continue on. Australia. They had a secondary student in sexual health conduct in 2021. And an increasing number of sexual activity young Australian individuals compared to previous years. 1992 was 49%. 12th grade students reported being active, whereas in 2021, 69%. So let's get into this. I'm glad I read that, because see, this is what I mean. If 69% of young people are having sex, then that means that young girls are having babies again under the age of 22. So if y'all gonna talk about being single mothers, we kind of got an explanation as of why. Because the average girl has a baby before she turns 22. So if the average woman in general, especially black women, are having babies between the ages of 8 and the age of 22, then how in the world can you explain why these women are being single mothers? Because boys turn into men that do the same behavior. That's why. Because these boys are not forced to marry these young girls who are getting pregnant. So let's get into this conversation. Oh wow. I am so sorry. So if you got all of these women, these young girls who are having babies before the age of 22, then how in the world can you even come out your mouth as a black man and say it is a black woman's fault that she gets pregnant? When at 16 years old, none of these girls are trying to be pregnant. They're not. Most of these black girls are trying to go to school, trying to get an education. And what do these young boys tell you? If I take the condom off, you can't get pregnant because I'm going to pull out. Has any of y'all heard that? Because I certainly did. How many of y'all as women have heard a man tell you, if I pull out, you can't get pregnant? Are you on birth control? Do men really like using condoms? Absolutely not. They don't. They don't like using condoms at all. So let's start there. So if y'all gonna have this conversation on these panels, then you need to explain that. Because if 69% by the 12th grade have had sex that are seniors, then this is where the problem is. Why are our kids having sex at all at young ages? We really got to start there. We really got to start there because that seems to be the problem. So if 69% of young people are having sex, then it starts there. Because you can't say to a girl that had a baby at 16 that basically essentially that she chose her baby daddy, because she didn't. That young boy chose her because he took off their condom. That boy chose her when he said he pulled out that she can't get pregnant. So we ain't even gonna do that today. But let's continue on. I'm glad I saw that. The number 13, oh Lord, United States is next. Ooh, number 13. Research from the Policy Institute of the King College London exam data spanning from the past 4 decades. Research discovered a shift in attitudes amongst baby boomers towards sex. In 2009, only 8% of baby boomers view sex as justifiable. However, in 2022, had a significant increase in 30%. So we now know that in London, they don't have sex like that unless they're in relationships. And don't get me wrong, there probably are some people having sex over there, but not as much based on what I just read. The next most important one, the United States of America. Just recently, Nap Labs, a mattress review site, initiated a survey with the aim to find the United States to have the most sex. That's what they say. A total of 1,567 individuals were surveyed regarding their week frequency of sex activity and the state in which they reside. So this is gonna be interesting. So we only had 1,567 people that did this survey. So I need to make sure y'all pay attention to that. Out of the total participants, 7.8 reported to having sex once a day. 45.6 engage in sexual activity at least once a week. 24.8% have sex once a month. 9.5 engaging in sex activity at least once a year. So over average, Americans engaged to having sex at least 1.6 times a week. So based upon these numbers that I'm looking here, only 7.8% reported having sex once a day. So Y'all were saying in these numbers? Because the way that everybody's over sexualized, you would think these numbers would be a whole lot higher, but yet they're not. So if only 7.8% of these people out of this survey of 1,567 people, only 7.8% are having sex once a day. That's a low number. And then you have 45.6% that have sex once a week. You have 24.8% that have sex once a month and 9.5% that have sex once a year. So you mean to tell me that the average person in the United States only has sex once a week? Interesting. So we have a problem here, ladies and gentlemen. So you mean to tell me that, considering that for the most part we only have sex once a week on average, once a week on average, we have all these babies coming into this world. So apparently most of these kids must be accidents. Having sex once, you end up popped up pregnant. Okay, good to know. And y'all said that the United States is on top when it comes to having the most sex. Now, based upon them numbers I'm sitting there looking at. So apparently this over sexualization is just a figment of y'all imagination, apparently. So that means that basically, even if you include porn in that, would be the only way the numbers would go higher, because the only ones having the most sex is porn stars and strippers and escorts. Those people in the sex industry are the ones having the most sex. But the average female is not having sex like that. So yeah, good to know. Number 11. This one says that they did a study aimed to describe the patterns of partners or non-partners' sexual activity as well as sexual satisfaction. That's that part right there. Sexual satisfaction. See, it's not a question about having sex here. It's about a question of the satisfaction. Let's get into it. Among older men and women among Europeans, Portugal ranked second with 83% points, next to Norway's 91%. So you mean to tell me I need to go to Portugal to have me some great sex between Norway and Portugal? Man, I might have to take me a little trip over there. I might have to go to Portugal at this point. Because if I'm going to get some satisfactory sex, I might as well go ahead and go to Portugal then. Good to know. And then it says, we all know about Russia, but I'm going to read it anyway. It says, sorting the number of average sexual encounters person worldwide, Russia stands at an average of 143 sexual encounters per year, according to the study conducted by the research company. So you mean to tell me that on average has their average of sexual encounters is 143 per year? Oh, interesting. I learned something new today. Germany. My favorite place. Germany boasts its comprehensive sexual education program and progressive politics, political politics concerning sex workers. The country exhibits a vibrant sexual culture. Yep, they ain't lying, because I used to live over there. I should know. Similar to the counterparts of other Western European nations, Germany holds a positive view of their sexual performance, rating as excellent. They ain't lying. They ain't lying. I just said that earlier about the fact that Germany believes about being able to be naked. Honey, they don't care whether they kids in the house, they having sex. That's just the way it's gonna go. It's just gonna go straight like that. They don't care if the kids are there or not. They are having sex. They are not gonna stop having sex because they got kids. It's just not happening. All right, we already talked about China and 79% points studies Um, when it comes to having sex, 78% active adults population of China confessed to indulging in their intimate activities on a weekly basis. So yeah, we did right on that. Then we have Brazil, which we did, and their average of sexual encounters 145 a year, and which is more than 3 times reported figures of the lowest ranked Japan. Hmm. Number 6 is Mexico, and they have the most sex in the world. One of the countries with the most sex in the world. 56% of its population over 30 years admit to have engaging in sexual relationship twice a week. I believe that. Mexico is one of the 20 countries having the most sex. I believe that too. And we know that number 5 is Greece. And we all know about Greece, which is 87% of them having sex once a week. Number 4 is Poland, which we read about that. It says 8% responds to indicate that they're having sex on a daily basis. So that's 8%. Number 3. Is that number 1? That's number 4. Where's number 3? I gotta keep going. Hold on. I gotta find. Where is number 3? Okay, they just did. Wait a minute. Hold on. Did I miss number 3? Or do I need to click something? I think I missed number 3. Hold on. Did I find number 3? Okay, so that's number 4. Where's number 3? How you gonna seriously not? Okay, never mind. I'm tripping. Okay. I was like, what the world? Switzerland is number 3. And they're one of the countries having the most sex. Despite their active sexual lifestyle, Switzerland remains the lowest rate in teenage births globally. Now I need to know their secret. How, if they having the most sex and yet they have the lowest rate of teenage births, I need to know what their secret is. I need to go over there and find out because that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. I need to find out what their secret is. Okay. Number 2, Italy. We read about Italy, and they over 1 million women around the globe in order to know which country has the woman with the highest sex drive. Italy ranks 72. Like I said, there's an actual survey that actually talks about each country when it comes to sex. Number 1, Spain. I'm not surprised. 72%. We talked about that. So Spain is number 1 when it comes to having the most sex. So I mean, based on what I'm reading, based on what I got from this, United States, y'all, we need to have a conversation. Yeah, us in the United States of America, we need to have a very, very serious conversation because y'all are not the ones having the most sex. And y'all are not the ones having the most sex at least once a week. So that would mean that we have some statistics that are technically wrong here. Okay? Wrong. So that's why I wanted to bring these statistics up because these men think they be doing something and apparently they're not. So apparently there is some type of disconnect, I should say. Because when I was in school and we learned about sex, all I learned about was of a JJ and what's between your legs, and that was the only thing I learned. I learned it from a health perspective. I didn't learn how it made me feel. I didn't learn none of that. And matter of fact, I gotta change this podcast to adult conversation. But anyway, like I said, I'm really trying to understand how y'all in America thought that y'all were the best at sex. Well, those statistics say otherwise. So yeah, before y'all sit up here and y'all get to talking, we need to have a really, really interesting conversation because apparently y'all ain't having sex as much as y'all are thinking that you are having sex, apparently. So yeah, that would be no. Oops, I didn't mean to. Oh, I'm about to say, please don't. Nope. I don't want. I'm sorry, y'all hit the wrong button. I was trying to find the article and I was trying to go back and I ended up hitting the wrong button. But anyway, like I said, the fact that, and that's what I'm saying. When y'all get on these panels, y'all need to go over these statistics because these statistics say everything. And, these are just very interesting statistics. So like I said, I like to do my research. And then they have another one, the 12 most sexually satisfying countries in the world. Boy, if I read this, it's going, oh, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Number one is Switzerland, Spain. Now, okay, these are the top 12 countries that have the most satisfaction. In other words, they satisfy their partners in the world. These are the countries that have the most satisfaction when it comes to sex. This is going to be interesting. It says, despite America's superpower status across the globe and the fact that we can claim sex icons George Clooney and Kate Upton as our own, Americans overall are not as sexually satisfied as our foreign brothers and sisters. While some of us certainly hold a progressively views about sex, we still consider by a large as a pinnacle society. So let me explain what I mean by that. Even though we're having sex, it's still considered taboo. So I wasn't planning on going into this evening, but let's go into it. United States is the country where when it comes to sex, there is a taboo to it. It's like you see, but you can't touch. You can see it, but you can't touch it. You can taste it, but you can't smell it. You know that old saying? You can look, but you can't touch. You can taste, but you can't, so I think y'all see where I'm going with this. So anyway, that's the country we live in. It's like it's the United States is a walking contradiction. It really is. It's a walking contradiction because it's like saying you can do certain things, but you can't do some things. So, for example, you can have sex, but you can't talk about it. So you can't talk about sex online, but yet you have the porn industry. You can wear something sexy and be disrespected at the same time. So because of what you got on, you still can be sexually assaulted. And yet, and still, but yet the modeling industry sells, these companies sell sex anyway. Sex sells. So in this country, it's more of a prostitution type of sex. It's not, yeah, only in America. Absolutely right, because that's what I'm reading about this. When you go to other countries, it's a completely different, a whole different entity. Sex is a whole lot more freer, it's more spoken, and it's not a taboo. Where in this country, it is a taboo. It is a taboo to wear lingerie. It is a taboo to go get sex toys. It's a taboo to be able to have sex where you want to have sex at. Can't do it. Why? Because what they use is children, but yet they say nothing about our kids having sex at the age of 8. So they'll talk about, well, we don't want your kids learning in school about sex, but yet your kids are having sex while you're at work. Okay. So if you have one set of families that are all about not having sex until marriage, and you got a bunch of other people that's saying, no, go out there and have sex with as many people as you can. When you got mothers telling their daughters to go out there and dress like they're grown and putting their kids out there. Okay. It's a walking contradiction. You're having sex in this country just to have kids. Let me just be frank. You're not having sex for fun. You're having sex to have kids. You're not having sex because it's genuinely about you having sex. It's really about you having sex to have kids. So the reason I'm bringing this all up is because I'm tired of men claiming, oh, in America, you know what you're doing when it comes to sex. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because when these women go overseas and they're having sex with men overseas, it's a whole different godforsaken ball game because these dudes last all night long. When most American men are so out of shape, they can't even go all night long. Most of them can't even go 10 minutes on average in the United States because they're overweight and unhealthy. Do we really need to have this conversation as grown people? And that's another thing. You only grown when it comes to paying bills. You're only grown when it comes to taking care of a household, but you're not grown when it comes to sex. I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. So, like I said, I'm saying this because, like I said, you want to know why you're a single mother? It's simple. You had kids before under the age of 22. That's why. You didn't have any supervision. And because your mama and them was out there doing it, because your mama and them had kids around the same age, so she's still trying to live her life and yet having children. But the problem is you didn't stop at one. You thought that every man, when these boys became men, that these men would be more responsible, when in all actuality, they just ain't. Boys turn into men. They have the same behavior. It doesn't change no differently than it does in high school. These men have the same mind frames they had in high school when it comes to sex. They have not outgrown their childish behavior. So it's not about satisfying you. It ain't. It's not. You'd be amazed how if I sat here and I asked men, what does it take to satisfy a female? The majority of them couldn't even tell you. They don't care. And I'm going to go here. They don't care if you get an orgasm or not. They don't care. If you get one, you get one. If you don't, you don't. They don't care. But let's continue. So let's talk about these 12 countries that satisfy women the best. Now, it says, which may explain our medical level. I ain't trying to pronounce it. I'm not even going to try. Levels of satisfaction. Conservatives and white ring Christians have fought long and hard against political reform to liberalize sex in the United States. See, that's part of the problem right there. From limiting, I'm sick, please forgive me, reproductive rights and sex education to lobby against gay marriage and sex work. But what efforts, if any, has this had on sexual satisfaction? Tremendous. It's caused tremendous problems. And I'm gonna explain why before I get into this. Because like I said, I literally had to study sex to figure all of this out. Number one, you're not taught anything. Let me just first say that. The only thing you're taught to do is work. I'm gonna be as transparent as I can be. I may have to do a part two to this, but number one, you're only taught to work. Number two, the only reason they want you to get married to have kids. Number three, they need your kids to continue to work. So it's not about you having any freedoms whatsoever, because it ain't. It's not about you doing what you want to do, because as soon as you spend money, it's going right back in somebody else's pocket. So when it comes to sex, a lot of parents don't even want to sit down and even have that conversation with their kids because they're conservatives. So they'll just say when you have sex until marriage, but they don't tell you how it feels, what to do. You got to figure it out. So every time you have sex with somebody, you're having sex with a different person. So that person's going to be different than the last person. So it's just like having the sex all over again for the first time all over again. The problem is you're having sex with the same spirit of the man, but just different men in general. So if you don't change, the people you have sex with is not going to change either. And that's the reason I created my Kama Sutra nights, which I was supposed to do tonight, but I'm still going to do after this one. So I'm going to go more in detail in that, but I'm not going to do that on my podcast. I'm just going to do this on here. But anyway, so a lot of women, to tell you the truth, really don't want to have sex. I'm going to be as honest and transparent as I can be. You're having sex because you're scared to lose a man. That's why you're having sex. You're not having sex because you genuinely want to have sex. You're having sex to keep a man. You're having sex basically thinking that you're different than every other female. Every female in the United States has sex the same way. There is nothing different about you. And that's why I'm saying men do not pay attention. If you listen to them talk, and I've been around men and I've listened to men and I've been around my uncles, I've hung out with nothing but males. I can speak on this from experience. If you listen to them talk, they never describe what you do. They never describe how you perform. They always say, yo, I had sex with this girl and yeah, it felt good. You ask a man what determines good sex, they cannot answer you. They cannot tell you. They'll say everything from if it's wet, they'll say everything from whatever, but they're never gonna say how you was on top of it. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go graphic. If you're under the age of 18, I don't suggest you be in here. But if you're grown, let's have this grown conversation. They pretty much don't pay attention to how you are on top, how you sucking it, none of it. They don't even know. They don't pay attention. Whereas women, we pay attention to everything from the way they stroke, from the way they kissed you, from the way they caressed you. We are more descriptive. Men are not descriptive. They don't care. They're not paying attention. They don't even know what makes them decide to have sex with you. They don't even know. They can't even tell you. They can't tell you because they don't know what having great sex is. Because again, in this country, we can have sex, but we can't talk about it. And now I'm talking about it because it needs to be talked about. But let's see what else they got to say. But that's part of the problem. Countries that are more social liberal and have relaxed attitudes towards sex tend to have lower rates of STDs, teen pregnancies, and abortions, and much more satisfaction sex lives in general. On the other hand, just belong to a social repressive culture doesn't always equip to satisfaction or how often the population gets down. Take Russia, where 80% of the population has sex at least once a week. At any event, one thing remains certain: the United States is having lots of sex than our overseas friends overseas. Studies show that in other countries that have up to 70 times more sex than we do, indeed, Americans are about 48% sexually satisfied. 48%. Interesting. It's probably less than that, honestly. So, how is sexual satisfaction measured? According to the Durex Global Research, the drivers include mature love and respect between partners, freedom from stress, the ability to orgasm, freedom from sexual dysfunction, good mental and physical health, which is something we don't have, and frequent sex and foreplay. That's something a lot of women don't have. And having an exciting sex life. 2014 revealed that the social economic status also impacts the level of sexual satisfaction. So I'm going to break this down even further. Number one, the foreplay part, not too many women get that. When it comes to mental and physical health, that's pretty much out the window because majority of Gen Z has so many mental health issues. It ain't even funny. Sexual dysfunctions, that's at an all times high. Stress is definitely a high one. The ability to orgasm, how can women orgasm when they don't know how? Um, Respect between partners, that's few in between. So yeah, that's the problem. All of that because no woman in the U.S. at this point or don't even have at least one of those. Because between stress and foreplay, it's probably I would say it's even probably maybe about 30%. Honestly, a shift though, all wacky data, numerous studies out there. AllNet has formulated a list of countries that consistently rate amongst the most sexually satisfied, no particular order. So let's see. Number one is Switzerland. So they said, okay. Now this is what's interesting right here. Whether it's the progressive view of legal prostitution, the population of licensed brothels, liberal stance on pornography, pornography, and and controversial sex education programs, which begins in early kindergarten. Early kindergarten. They talk about sex in kindergarten. And in this country, we can't even talk about it even as adults. Oh, okay. One thing is for certain, Switzerland is constantly rated one of the most sexual satisfied nations around the globe. 2013 revealed 21% of Swiss nations rate their sexual performance and their sex lives as excellent. I need to go over there. 22% have had sex in public places. I need to go over there. And yet, somehow, amidst all the fornication, the Swiss managed to have one of the lowest teen birth rates, which we talked about earlier. So, how is it in this country you can have sex outside if you want to? You can have sex in public if you want to. But yet, in the United States, we can't do like I said. Y'all just don't even know to have. I love traveling. Spain. We already talked about Spain. Now, this is what's interesting. They got the top, the world's top best male lovers. I believe that 15,000 women globally, about which this nationality of men could be the best float their boats. I believe that. And its study shows that 9,850 people in Spain reveal 90% of Spanish men and women are sexually satisfied. 90%. I need to go. I need to take me some trips. I need to take me some trips, boy. Unsurprisingly, their level of sexual satisfaction rose over time with stable partners and opposed to casual sex encounters. That's interesting because, like I said, in our country, we can't do half of this stuff. So, like I said, no wonder these men got a problem with black women dating outside. I might have to find me somebody in the Spanish community. Italy is next, and it says, according to Men's Health, sexual seduction in Italy begins at the table as food and sex are I'm gonna say intertwinably linked. This may be the reason Italians are considered among the top lovers of the world. Italian women seem pretty content with their love lives, and women who have 2 glasses of wine a day enjoy great sexual satisfaction than those who don't drink. Ooh, 64% of Italian men and women rate their sex lives as satisfactory. I can't even talk right now. As satisfactory. Satisfying, I'm sorry. I'm sick. The third of Italians expecting sex to last more than 10 minutes. What did I just say? What did I just say? There are countries that take pride in sex. They just do. There are a lot of countries that take very much satisfaction in the way they perform, the way they do things. And in this country, these men don't take a bit more. They don't take a bit more care in the world about how they perform. They don't care. Whereas men in Italy, Spain, Brazil, most of the Spanish community, they take pride in how they have sex. And like they said, a third of Italian women expect sex to last more than 10 minutes. And I ain't mad at them. Next one on the list is Brazil, like I just said. Now, we already said this is the world's second best lovers. Not surprised. As far as high sexual satisfaction nation, um, they said the status vary on just how often Brazilians are banging. 82% of Brazilians have sex at least once a week, which we know. Another says 105 times on average a year, which equivalates to 2 or 3 times a week. And it says Brazilians enjoy their sex lives. These Latin lovers also tend to lose their virginities before people in almost any nation. Naughty, naughty. So, in other words, they're losing their virginity at very, very young ages, which proves what I said earlier. Greece is next, and we all know about Greece and their sexual desires. And sex has been talked about for centuries. Yeah, true. They talk about it even in Greek mythology. And inadvertently, sexual desires, in the case of women, when during intercourse, the vagina is rubbed and an iterational is set up in the womb, which provides pleasure in the heat in the rest of the body. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That is true. A lot of y'all wouldn't know about this. It's an irritation. It's gonna seem like it irritates. So let me explain this. Okay, when the vajayjay is rubbed right a certain way, and I'm not talking about what's between his legs. I'm just talking about in general. If a man knows how to touch a woman, which a lot of men don't in this country, sad enough. But if a man knows how to touch a woman, if he touches it the right way, like it says, it produces a pleasure and a heat in the rest of the body. Your body gets extremely warm. And what happens is the whole body has nerve endings. Let me start there. It has nerve endings. And with the nerve endings, depending on how you touch the body, determines how it reacts. Now, the body has pleasure nerve endings as well as painful nerve endings. So, pain and pleasure can go together. So, let's say you're in pain and somebody gives you a massage and it feels good. It can send a sensation to your brain because in order to have an orgasm for a woman, you got to be at your most relaxed point. You got to be very extremely relaxed in order to have great orgasms. Women got to be completely relaxed and their mind has to be turned off. So when they said that, I knew exactly what they were talking about. So it also says that Greeks commonly discuss sex at work with friends and most importantly with their partners. Communication. Communication makes a better sex life, period. Of course, the great weather, beautiful islands, and healthy diets can't hurt. Greeks have more sex in the world weekly, 164 times on average a year. As for the Greeks themselves, they say 51% are sexually satisfied. So, like I said, this is why I'm saying if you're going to have these panels, this stuff needs to come up because this right here will shut down a lot of black men because they wouldn't be able to explain this. And then it says number 6 is the Netherlands. The Netherlands has a reputation of being the most pro-sex country in the world thanks to the famous red light district. Yeah, they have a red light district. Abundance of new beaches and open sex education policies. 64% of Dutch men and women are confident at asserting their needs and wants, as they should. During sex, are open about sex in generations. Over half of Americans say they are comfortable with a certain sexual desires. Remarkably, Holland has a birth rate of only 5.3 per 1,000 people and 39.1 over 1,000 in the United States, as well as lower abortion and HIV rates. Now, how is this possible? How is this possible that this country here has more sex than we do, and yet they have less teen pregnancies and less HIV? Hmm. Interesting. 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 And they said their population when it comes to sex is excellent. Mexico. All right. Even though they say they're one of the most horrible countries in the world, they are ranked second when it comes to sexual satisfaction in the world. 63% of the country claims a fulfilled sex life. But perhaps their candidness with regards to sex education. In 2008, Mexico City distributed over 700,000 sex textbooks to high school to cover birth control, abortion, and homosexuality. It might have something to do with the fact that sex workers are discriminated and regulated in half the country's state. Unfortunately, discriminating hasn't coattailed Mexicans' human trafficking problem. So they are the leading hot spot when it comes to sex trafficking and sexual exploitation. I believe that. So, like I said, I'm trying to figure out. I'm still going. India. Now, despite the fact that Indians wait the longest to have sex, which they do, and the average woman loses her virginity at 22 years old, I believe that too. This country has been considered to be the rate among the top satisfaction nations in the recent years. The secret to India's sex bliss is a bit of a mystery, but there are a couple of theories. Men Health says Indians enjoy prolonged sexual pleasure, apparently a journey that is more important than desire. So they are prolonging their sexual pleasure, which I wish more men in America would do. In other words, wouldn't be out here messing around with multiple women and start taking some pride in what's between their legs. Then they said, think tanker sex. Indian men are more likely to spend time on the process of seduction and foreplay compared to other countries. I need to go over there. And then again, studies also reveal that Indians are the quickest to perform in the bedroom. The average time spent in intercourse is 13 minutes, despite the variation. Indians' rate of sex is pretty high. 61% are considered satisfied. That's high. So in other words, these men are about the technique of it all. In other words, Kama Sutra. I'm gonna say that they're more about the technique. They're more about, okay, I know I only last 13 minutes, but I'm gonna make sure that without what's between my legs, I'm gonna make sure she's satisfied. I ain't mad at it. I feel like if you have issues when it comes to what's between your legs and you know it don't last that long, you might want to do something to make up for it. And that's something I can respect. Now, when it comes to Australia shenanigans may be the key sexual satisfaction land down under. 75% of Australians claim to have sex on the road, with vehicles proving quite. Oh, what's more, Gospel says 27% of women wouldn't change a thing about their sex lives. Aussie women are also quite likely to fantasize about having threesomes, about 20% listing this act as their favorite sexual fantasy. Whoa, didn't know that. As opposed to 4% of Americans. So you wait, wait. Hey, so you're saying that Australian women, how many, what, how much percentage? So 20% of Australian women have fantasies of having threesomes, and American women is only 4%. Wow, that's crazy. As far as sex partners goes, Australians are more promiscuous than most. I believe that. 25 is the average number of sex partners. Interesting. Aussie men have had compared with 13 of their American counterparts. Interesting. The women, on the other hand, are far more equal, 10 and 9 average number of sex partners for Australian and American women. So that's the one thing they do have in common. Okay. So Australians have more sex as men than American men do. Interesting. All right, Nigeria is next, and they're rated number one. I'm sorry. Oh, black men. Well, I'm scared to read this. I'm scared to read this one. I ain't gonna lie, because this might make black men feel some type of way. But let's go ahead. Nigeria is rated number one in sexual satisfaction nations in the world. 67% of its popularity claiming sexual gratification. Perhaps it's something to do with the fact that Nigerians take the longest time to have sex at 24 minutes per session. What? What? The stats come as rather surprising. Yeah, it is. Given Nigerians' conservative views on same-sex marriage have been recently banned in the union. The prevalence of the Islamic extremities, some dominance in their country. Again, Nigerian women have been ranked the most unfaithful in the world, with 62% have admitting to cheating on their partners. I disagree. I disagree too. I disagree with that. But 24 minutes? Yeah, I see why. Yeah, 24 minutes is kind of long. Yes, because some men can't even last 10 minutes, but let's continue. Germany, despite being marked as the world's worst lovers for being too smelly, the country ranks as the highest sexual satisfied nation. Germany is the home of some of the world's most comprehensive sexual education programs, known for progressive political politics in relation to sex workers. We've seen that. So 30%, 32% of Germans profess to having one night stands, and 30% having sex in public places. And Germany rates their sex performance as excellent. Germany fares better in the US when it comes to sexually transmitted diseases and HIV. So, yeah. I'm not surprised. Number 12, China. We've already read on that one. So they have sex shops. So they're more 78% of population get down at least once a week. We know that. I'm not surprised by that. So what do y'all think about these numbers? What do y'all think about them? And America's nowhere near on that at all. Oh, and American men are nowhere near on that list. That's not good, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't good at all. That ain't good. Well, we got to have some conversations then, don't we? Because if I was to take these statistics and go right on a panel and start going on these black panels, they would hate me. And I probably would get kicked off the panels because these panels, it's like they're saying the same thing, but there's no statistics. You're not showing any statistics proving your point. So again, if we're in a country where we can't talk about sex, but yet we're having babies, and yet most young girls are having babies under the age of 18, well, under the age of 22, then that means they were young when they had babies. So that means that being that their parents did not teach them about choosing, because how in the world you gonna teach your child how to choose when it comes to having a partner when you don't know your child is even dating? Yeah, we got to change the way that we have conversations with our children. That's what needs to happen. We have to get our kids to not having sex until they're grown. That's really the solution to all of this. So the reason why most women are single mothers, because again, when you're a teenager, boys pull, if you love me, you'll have sex with me. If you love me, you'll have sex with me, and if you have sex with me, then you know, if you don't have no, let me take that back. If you don't have sex with me, then I'm going to leave you for another woman. And what do you think that young girl is going to do at 16 years old? She's going to have sex with him. Why? Because she doesn't want to lose him, but she ends up losing him anyway. And depending on if he uses a condom or not, the possibility of being pregnant. And not only that, also when it comes to STDs, also as well, men are the ones that basically inseminate. Men are the ones that actually ejaculate. So, you know, if a man ejaculates in a woman and she ends up with an STD, she's passing it along because she doesn't know she has it. So, at the end of the day, these are conversations we need to have. Definitely. We definitely need to have these conversations. But that is the reason why women are single mothers, because number one, you're having sex to keep a man. You're not having sex because you genuinely want to have sex. You're having sex because for multiple reasons, whether it be money, whether it be because you want, but mainly the number one reason is to hold on to a man, because you feel like the only way you're going to hold on to him is sex. That's the only way you think you're going to hold on to him. And that's why a lot of women go get plastic surgery and get Botox, because as you get older, you're worried about him leaving you for a younger woman. So women in America are not having sex because they genuinely want to have sex. You're having sex because that is what you've been programmed by men to believe that's what they want. So all in all, that's more than likely why. Because anytime a woman tells a man no, either he's going to force himself on you anyway, or he's going to not call you no more. One of the two. So that's pretty much it on that. But I just wanted to come on here and have this, nice little conversation, because, like I said, this is the conversation that needed to be had. There will be a part two to this, but that's just one of the reasons why. I just wanted to show you that a lot of women in this country do not know the truth about sex in any capacity. You don't even know what satisfies you at all. And so I decided to do a part two to this episode in a second, because I got to type and then post it. But I am going to do a Kama Sutra Nights where I'm going to go into that more in detail. I just can't do it on my podcast, but I can do it on YouTube. And I am going to make this an adult content, because it needs to be an adult content. But like I said, a lot of women are being deprived. A lot of women are not sexually satisfied. And when you do find a man that's going to sexually satisfy you, the problem is that man is with a whole nother female, crazily enough. So you have a lot of men that do know what they're doing, but they have multiple women that they're doing it to, and they can't understand why these females are so possessive and so jealous. That's because you don't put something on her that you shouldn't have did. So at the end of the day, A lot of people, once I have these conversations, are probably going to be rethinking some things, but these conversations need to be taking place. So I'm gonna end this here because I'm gonna go ahead and do the part two to this episode, and then on my next week I'll do part two of this episode as far as being a single mother. But that's why you are. That's the first part of it. This is just the first part of it. There's more, but this is just the first part of it, the sexual part of it, and the fact of our history as far as African culture is why we're single mothers. But that ain't all. It's also many other factors, but this one is one of the most important reasons why. So, to end men's argument when it comes to the reason that women are single mothers, it isn't the fact that a woman chose the man as far as having a child, it's the fact that men take off the condoms and they don't say nothing. They take off condoms and they don't say nothing, and you're pregnant. A lot of men convince girls to take off condoms, even they're on birth control. They somehow convince a girl to take off the condom. So, like I said, it's not the woman, it's the male, because the male is the one that basically gives and she receives. So if you had sex with a man, even if you had sex with a man, if you were responsible, you're more than likely not gonna get pregnant. Because I've had sex with a few people and I never got pregnant. So that has nothing to do with it. It's got everything to do with the fact of men and their irresponsibility when it comes to them not wanting to put on condoms. Because there's not one man that I know of that enjoys wearing condoms. So, honey, no. So that's why I'm saying you got to be mindful of that. So I'm going to end this here, and then I'm going to go ahead and change over for a little bit, and I'm going to talk to y'all. Even though I don't feel good, mind you, I'm going to try to get this done. But yeah, that's the reason why. So I just wanted to get this one done. I haven't, trying to build this podcast, but like I said, this has nothing to do with Caucasian people. I have nothing against Caucasian people because I don't, but this has everything to do with Black women and your history. And if you don't know your history as a Black woman, then you don't know how you're supposed to move accordingly. And like I said, my generation is going to be the last generation that's going to be able to know about their history. I had some hot tea and I forgot that it was that. I forgot that it was sitting there. I was waiting for it to cool off and I just forgot. I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna stick it in the microwave so I can warm it up a little bit. So I'm gonna switch over to YouTube for a little bit. But I want to thank y'all on my podcast for joining me on this episode. And I appreciate y'all. Without y'all, there is no me. I'll be nothing without y'all. We will be doing parts. You know what? I'm gonna spend this whole season on this episode. This episode, as far as being single mothers and being unmarried, I'm actually gonna spend the whole entire season on it. Cause it's broad. Being a single mother is not as simple as people think it is. It ain't like, and I just love how Black men like to gaslight Black women when they are clearly the problem. They are clearly the problem. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this podcast, and for y'all on YouTube, I'm gonna end this one as well, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do the episode that I can be more blunt and more upfront about it. So I'm gonna do that. Can't play any music. I gotta be very careful on what I choose to play because I'm gonna have to go in. The last one played in certain places, but it was blocked in some areas, and I had to end up. I think it was like one. I know with Chris Brown definitely. His stuff gets where it gets blocked, and I have to go in and I have to take that segment out. But I might play a couple of things, but I'm gonna have to. I know I'm gonna have to go in there and cut it, but I gotta make sure that it can be played. So I might do something. There's some people that do mute that do like DJing, and they play like the songs, but they're not as long. So I probably might do that, but I'll figure it out as we go. But I'm gonna do this for maybe the next hour or so, and then I'm gonna get some sleep and get some rest. I'm still sick still. I got the air conditioner on and I'm cold, so I'm probably gonna turn the air conditioner off so I can sweat out this whatever this is. I had a nurse practitioner. Oh, had a nurse practitioner come to the house and she said, as far as my driving, I need to get my neck looked at. So everything else is fine, but she's gonna send something to my doctor. My insurance had a free visit from a nurse practitioner. I need to go get tested for COVID, which I pray to God I don't have COVID, but I still need to get tested to see if I got the flu. I know for a fact I got a virus, but with a virus, you gotta let it run its course. So I just feel horrible. I do, but for the most part, I'm healthy. But they're gonna have to do a neurology thing on my neck. I gotta get a pain specialist. I might have to go to physical therapy. Um, for my neck area. I need to go to a masseuse. I know that much. I think I'm going to a spa. Oh, and I got 2 trips planned next year. I am going on a cruise next year in the beginning of the year, and I am going to Vegas. I'm excited about Vegas. Can't wait to go to Vegas because I might run into some people. Yeah, I gotta get in touch with somebody and tell them I'm coming. I'm coming to Vegas because if I see this person in Vegas, we might have to go live together. Cause he can show me about Vegas. I don't even think he knows I'm going, but I gotta figure out his Instagram so I can reach out to him and tell him I'm coming to Vegas for 4 days. So yeah, I'll be there on my birthday, so I'm excited. So I'm definitely going to enjoy Vegas. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get with him, let him know I'm there, so that way we can go live together and actually be in Vegas. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool seeing my city. Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun going to see. I think eventually I might eventually do some meet and greets as I get these podcasts and these YouTube channels up and running like I would like them to. I would like to eventually do some meet and greets. So that being said, you beautiful people, I'm going to go change over and I will see y'all on YouTube in a few minutes. And I am going to see y'all next week on my podcast. So I appreciate y'all. Without y'all, there is no me. I would be nothing without y'all. So on my podcast, thank y'all for joining me. And I will see you guys next week. And if you want to, like, for example, say you're going through something, and let's say you want to basically email me or for one-on-one coaching or to be a guest on my podcast, you can reach me at asha.mariama01@gmail.com. That's asha.mariama01@gmail.com. That is my email address for my podcast only. And you guys can send me an email, and that way, I can respond. If it's something you want me to read on the podcast, make sure that you specify that, and I will definitely read them. I'm trying to do like these Dear Abby letters where somebody sends me something about advice or something like that. That way I can start reading them. So I would love to be able to start doing those as well. So if, like I said, and if somebody wants to be a guest on the show, then they can be on a guest as well. And then I can connect it. Not only if we're just gonna do the podcast, then we just do the recorded podcast. If we're gonna do it where it can be seen, then we'll do it that way. Either way. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all, and I will see you guys later. Have a very good morning, Sunday morning, and we'll talk later. Bye. And for those of y'all on YouTube, give me a couple minutes. I'm gonna do an hour of talking about my Kama Sutra nights, and I will see y'all in about an hour because I don't feel good. I'm gonna try to do it at least for an hour because I really want to get some rest. And until next time, I will see you guys in a couple minutes as soon as I can type everything. Get me some, well, I got some tea and drink my tea right quick because my throat hurts and I am pretty much under the weather. And I'm about to take my sinus medicine. I need some Dayquil. I'm at town to bring me some Dayquil. So hopefully my friend will bring me some Dayquil. I meant Theraflu. So with that being said, I will see y'all in a couple minutes. And until then, thank y'all for joining me for this episode. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications of my videos. I will be doing this video this next Friday at 6 o'clock. So with that being said, this will probably be something with this particular episode. I'll probably do every Friday. So with that being said, I will see y'all in a couple minutes. Bye.